Calling the regular meeting of the Township of Frontenac Islands to order, April 14th. We'll begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are meeting on the land that has been under the stewardship of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat from time immemorial. As settlers, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet, live, and play on this land, and we thank all generations of Indigenous peoples from the past to the present who currently continue to extend the sharing of this land with us. We recognize and deeply appreciate their ongoing connection to this place. We also recognize the contribution of the Métis, Inuit, and Indigenous peoples who now make this region their home, and who have both shaped and strengthened this community and our province and country as a whole. As settlers, this recognition of the contributions and ongoing importance of Indigenous peoples to the area must also be clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities and to bring justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls across the country. Now, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Seeing none. So I'll move that the council adjourn to form a council in closed session at 9.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Ackley, that council adjourn to form closed session. To form council in closed session at 9:31 a.m. regarding Municipal Act Section 239E litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and Municipal Act Section 239.3B, an ongoing investigation respecting the municipality, a local board, or a municipally controlled board or controlled corporation by the ombudsman appointed under the Ombudsman's Act, an ombudsman referred to in subsection 223.131 of this act, or the investigator referred to in subsection 239.2 sub 1.
All those in favor? Okay, those not involved in the closed session, please leave and close the door. Resume at 10:25. We leave at 10:24.
Right. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The sign.
Your sign-in sheet? No. Have a seat.
There's copies of the agenda I put on the front thing there.
Okay, we've lost our treasurer. Chief Hawkins, could you just check and see when Jesse's popping on back?
I didn't see it right there.
Didn't see him? No,
Where'd she go?
him,
Jesse.
the treasurer.
Oh, Jesse. the treasurer. Don't see him either.
Oh, okay, all right,
He must be in the washroom.
yeah, okay. Wait a minute or two.
Change works.
There we go, okay. All right, so we're resuming now back to the regular meeting.
Moved by Councillor Holton, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that council direct the solicitor to proceed as directed during the closed session.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we have delegation. Dr. Terry Lynn Brennan saves the date, National Indigenous Presenters Gathering, The Art of Visiting. And welcome, Terry Lynn.
Nyawe. Mayor Greenwood Spears, thank you. Good to see everyone, even virtually. So, Segos gonna go, Sego Guego. Maradon, Terry Lynn Brennan Unit, Skimika Haga British, Najododan, Goweno Gweski, Goweno Dago, Nugaria, Shwigana Jitteron. So, hello, good to see everyone. Thank you for inviting me to be part of today's meeting and to talk a little bit about our gathering. I live on Wolf Island, and one of these days I will get to Howe Island for a meeting, but unfortunately it wasn't today. And I won't belabor this too much. So last year in the summer, I came to you as well to introduce what was going to be the launch of a brand new event on Wolf Island called The Art of Visiting, an National Indigenous Presenters Gathering. It happened with great success, and I will share my screen. Oh, if I can.
Angelique, I don't think she's authorized to share her screen. I think you have to. Can I share it? No, so you'll have to turn hers on so she can be able to share it.
We're working on it, Terry Lynn.
Okay.
Angelique, if you go to the participant list at the bottom left, you should be able to see her name, and then you press the three dots. I don't know if you need to make a co-host technically.
Do we have her slide
You
yet?
shouldn't
We can
have
share
to.
it.
We do. No, that's okay. Actually, Terry Lynn, what we can do is pull up your slide deck that we've attached with the council agenda, and we can go through that if you wish.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. So if we can start at the first
Beginning.
slide. Although I understand getting caught on the food is always a good thing. So this year we are hoping to offer again, well, we're not hoping, we are going to offer our second annual National Indigenous Presenters Gathering based on the success of last year. If you flip to the second slide, please.
Did we lose you, Terry Lynn?
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for the slide to flip to the second slide if possible.
It is on the second slide, The Art of Visiting in 2024. We're seeing that on our screen.
Okay, it's not showing up on mine, so that's fine. So yeah, a little bit about last year and to let you know of the success. It took place at the Wolf Island Hotel over the 3 days. We filled up all the rooms at the hotel as well as some rooms over at the Blue Moose. And we had guests coming and going with entertainment each of the 3 nights from the 6th, 7th, and 8th. And it allowed for Indigenous presenters and Indigenous artists to come together to begin to build, thank you, that's better, to continue to build relationships and understandings of the different types of events that Indigenous folks present, promote, and showcase across this country. Next slide, please.
Okay, we're on the next slide.
Yep. So simplified a little bit. We had over 30 presenters and artists that attended for the 4 days. We had 142 in-person participants over those 3 days, and folks came from 6 different provinces. We had folks here from Newfoundland and New Brunswick, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and across Ontario. And I think only 2 of those folks had ever been to this region before. Everyone fell in love with the island and really are excited about coming back this year. We, as I said, we basically sold out for accommodations on the island. We afforded close to $5,000 in meals and foods brought in from local catering. And we hosted over $4,000 worth of professional artistry on the island.
4,000 or 40?
40, sorry, yes, 40,000.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We kicked it all off, and I know some of you were in attendance for this meal with the Kistwenta dinner at the hotel on the evening of October 6th. Kistwenta means two-row, as in the two-row wampum, where Indigenous and non-Indigenous share the land and respect each other in participation of sharing this land and keeping things in balance. And certainly the meal brought together an Indigenous chef and a non-Indigenous chef to create these dishes that we were honored by. And I hope that those of you who were in attendance enjoyed it, thought that it was a worthy cause, good conversation, and good food for that night. We will be doing this again. This has become, I think, one of the most requested parts of the event. So we will at least be doing 1, if not 2, dinner events this coming year. One that will be for you folks, dignitaries, as and bringing those voices and those minds together. But we also will probably offer one that'll be more open to the public and can share with others this amazing artistry of food fusion, and hoping to continue with that process. Next slide, please.
Okay, we're good.
We joined with lots of partners last year. I was so grateful for the support that came from national organizations such as the Indigenous Performing Arts, as well as the Canadian Arts Presenting Association. We had folks from those organizations that came, have continued to stay involved with us, and we are now collaborating more closely. Other organizations, local, and obviously government organizations such as you folks contributed and supported our event to make it such a brilliant success. We are always looking for partnerships, and indeed we're already expanding a little bit this year for partnerships and securing some artists, literary artists, to help kind of offset a little bit of the Kingston Writers Fest slowdown. Let's just put it a slowdown. There was a shutdown, but I think they're trying to ramp up to do something. So we're collaborating where we're taking the lead on inviting some authors, where we've already confirmed Sheila Rogers and Richard Van Camp. If you're not familiar with who they are, please Google who they are. They're pretty heavy hitters. And so we're looking forward, again, to hosting and partnering with all these folks. Next slide, please. And so finally, yes, mark your calendars for this coming year's event from Monday, October 6th to Thursday, October 9th. We will again have a Kistwenta dinner on the evening of the 6th and follow through with our schedule. We're still in the process of building the schedule as we identify the different artists that are going to help honor and host our presenters from across the country. But already we anticipate a growth of about 25%. And that's in presenters that are going to be coming to it. We're probably going to get a higher percentage of that when it comes to visitors, just because of the promotion that's happening word of mouth for last year's success. It falls in line entirely with the ongoing Frontenac destination plan of a couple years ago. It'll continue to increase community access. And as I said, everyone fell in love with the island and the area. So many folks want to keep coming back just to get to know the area more, and found it very welcoming as an arts hub that we have certainly going on the island. And then as I said, we can continue with partnerships, collaborations. We are a charitable not-for-profit, so any donations, sponsorships, the like, can certainly be requested for a tax receipt without any qualms from our part. So this year, we're hoping that there's enough time for the council to give consideration to our request, so that this year we can have the fees waived for the use of the Wolfe Island Community Center on both Tuesday and Thursday mornings, October 7th and October 9th, as well as the use of the Township Hall prior to 8:30 a.m. for each of the mornings. We hosted a public yoga open to anybody, and we did have folks from the community join every morning. We have 3 yogis who are part of our governance committee, as well as our inner core of artists. So each one took a morning and gratefully had a success in that, especially as well from our presenters and other guests. So that's what happens in the Township Hall that early in the morning. And then at the community center last year, we opened with our ceremony there. The first morning, the Tuesday morning, we'll be looking to do that again and having a performance on the land. Last year, we didn't make use of the Thursday morning to close out, but I certainly don't want to not have the opportunity to close our ceremony that morning on the land if folks are interested. So thank you so much for your time. This is basically it in regards to showcasing the success of last year, the growing interest and guaranteed success of this year, with the ask of a donation, if you will, for those spaces during those times for this year's event. So Nyawagoa, thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, Councillor Ackley?
No questions.
Deputy Mayor Saunders?
No, thank you.
Councillor Hall?
No questions.
Councillor Jablonski?
One question. How long do you need that community center for on the October 7th morning? Is that just like 9 till 12 sort of thing?
Yeah. I mean, we were wrapped up, I think, by about 11, but yeah, it's best to have it from 9 till 12.
Thank you.
Okay,
No worries. Thank you.
all right, and I just, maybe the treasurer can bring back to our next meeting what the in-kind would be for the donations being requested, because we've since put rental fees associated both on the Township Hall and the community center. So just knowing what our in-kind would be fine.
Yep, through you, Madam Mayor, I'll have that for you next meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right.
Brilliant.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you all for your time. Yeah, enjoy the day. Bye.
Moved by Councillor Holton, seconded by Councillor Jablonski, that council thank Dr. Terry Lynn Brennan for her presentation, and that council directs staff to bring back the in-kind amount to the next meeting of council. All those in favor? Thank you.
Okay, now we're at the consent agenda. We have adoption and receipt of the minutes of March the 10th, 2025. We'll just give the clerk a minute. We're gonna move her in a second to subscribe to that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So when I put the motion on the table, it will be with regards to both the minutes and the information items. Is there any information items that council wishes to pull to speak to separately?
Yes. I have some of the email ones. Anybody else have any? Okay, yeah, March the 13th, 20th, 27th, 3rd, 10th, and an Ewok letter.
13th, so all of the AMO watch files?
13th, 20th, 27th, 3rd, 10th, and the Ewok letter, yeah. Good quick questions.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Ackley, that the March 10th, 2025 council meeting minutes be adopted as presented, and or are there any amendments to the March 10th meeting minutes? Seeing none.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if you wish to speak to the AMO watch files.
Okay, on the March 13th, it talks about the June 11th Rural Healthy Democracies Forum that's going to be held at Mississippi Mills. I thought that even though we have nothing formal in the budget for our council, it seemed like a very opportune one-day session. And I can say that at Roma and that I did participate in the Rural Healthy Democracies Forum that was offered at Roma, and this would also be beneficial. So I was hoping that we might be able to find some opportunity for those that are interested in that. But I know that there's no money for training or conferences, correct? For council?
I will defer to the treasurer, but I believe that is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, no, in the budget, there was none for conferences or training, this year.
That's unfortunate. Okay, now March the 20th, there's a boost resiliency all risk municipal grant. And I was hoping the treasurer might update us whether or not we've made any applications. I believe was 10,000.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, so, I did look into the grant and the conditions, and just to kind of speak about it briefly, so the grant that's being offered, they're awarding it to 3 municipalities, $10,000 for new initiatives. Looking at the grant, it's money for projects that the township wouldn't currently be undertaking, so we'd have to come up with a project for additional costs. At this time, just due to the limited availability, only being 3 out of 400 plus municipalities and only being $10,000, and being for something we don't currently have a project in the works, just as a cost benefit analysis, I haven't proceeded. With that being said, if council wants me to direct me to apply to the grant and try to find a project, I would. But just based on those factors, there were other things that were a better use of time from my perspective.
Okay, was there any discussion held with the lead from Public Works or with the CAO in that regard? Because it seemed that potentially something in Public Works, like drainage, might be looked at.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, in passing, it has, because it came up last council, has been kind of brought up. Just if there was any projects in the line, the conversations didn't go past that. I would say they were, on a surface level, there's, nothing off the top of our head, that would kind of fit the definition of the grant. Again, staff could spend time brainstorming and coming up with something. But again, there's just been other priorities that, those conversations never went beyond those kind of levels.
Okay, and another piece was AMO has resources for decision makers considering electrical generators and storage projects. And just because we have electrical battery storage facilities on Wolf is what I'm thinking for the ferry. I was wondering whether or not that would potentially be beneficial for our chief of fire to be involved and see if there's anything. Could the
To you,
chief,
Madam Mayor, where is that?
yeah, it's AMO sponsoring it, and it's going to be held April the 3rd. And it's
Going to be held April 3rd.
sorry, occurred on April 3rd. Did we participate? My mistake on that. So did you know about it at all? Not at all, Darren. Well, if there's anything that comes in the future regarding batteries, I think might be of interest.
Yeah, we just did a, what I call that? Warehouse.
We did a
Yeah,
training
warehouse
session.
training on batteries.
Yeah.
Cars and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the big batteries at that dock and that, just in case, but anyways,
They're the same, they're just lithium.
Is there battery storage at the dock?
big.
On both sides?
DC charge.
Okay, so
Fast charge.
no crosstalk, but I think in the future, and that might be beneficial for the fire department to be as up
Oh, yeah,
on
we're
that as
always, we
possible.
are always looking into stuff. I think actually the guy did say to me that once everything got up and going and stuff like that, that they would have something for the fire department.
Okay, because there is a fellow that's stationed at that dock all the time and he's with them regarding the batteries.
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about.
Okay, and here's one for April the 16th to the 17th, managing communications through crisis. And that I was wondering if anybody had gotten signed up for that from your perspective, since between Chief Quinn and yourself, managing communications and crises departments.
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, I have not, and I will defer to Chief Quinn with regards to being the CEMC, but I don't believe so.
Not specifically, sort of through you, Madam Mayor, not specifically that workshop, but the Provincial Emergency Operations Center, which is what we connect to on a regular basis, coordinate all of the communications.
Okay, and there was another one regarding advanced strategies for elected officials to master conflict relationships. But we don't have any money in the training for that, so that's unfortunate. As well as a virtual municipal code of conduct, May the 14th. Oftentimes they're free, aren't they?
Sometimes they are. I don't believe that one is though. I think there's a $400 fee for that. I can look into that, Madam Mayor, and let everyone know.
Okay, and teeny tiny summit. It's gonna be held in Picton, May 1st. I attended that virtually last year, the first time it was brought to my attention. That was very good. That's actually something that any of the businesses in our communities might be also very interested. The enrollment for that is only $40 to start with. They do have additional costs if you go to specific in-services, but it's going to be May 1st. So it'd be nice if we put some notice out for some of our businesses, because they may find it very helpful, and that has a lot of good suggestions. And in the EWOC letter, there was a municipal disaster recovery assistance. And I was wondering, did we apply for any of that regarding any ice storm damage? Would it be worth our while?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I have checked with both the Public Works lead hands and foreman on both Howe and Wolf. And it did not extend beyond anything at regular normal duties, so they didn't feel.
Okay, and last question I had was regarding the WSIB rebate. Have the treasurer perhaps or yourself looked at how much we might be entitled to because of the Ontario government announcement?
I have not, I'm not sure. If
Yeah,
the treasurer
Through
has-
you, Madam Mayor, the reporting is gone through the County of Frontenac for those payroll matters. They usually complete the initial processing and then I would review. I'd be more than happy to reach out just to see what info they have on it.
Thank you very much. Okay, those are my simple questions.
Okay, motion on the floor is that the March 10th, 2025 council meeting minutes be adopted as presented and that the information items be received and filed.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we've gotten to staff reports. Public Works Report TW 002-25 Surface Treatment Tender Award.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Holton, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that Public Works Report number PW 002-25 Howe Island and Wolf Island Road Work Report be received, and further that council direct staff to award the 2025 road work contract to Miller Paving Limited.
Okay, open for questions. Councillor Ackley?
I understand there was only one bid on the job. And it seems reasonable with the numbers from previous years, so I don't have any other questions.
Okay, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Chief Quinn, do you have a date or when, how will you communicate when the work will start?
So through you, Madam Mayor, there's a window identified in the tender document. And so once this is approved, this signed document goes back to Miller Paving, and then they will schedule us. It's anytime after July 1st, and it needs to happen before October 15th.
Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Holden?
No questions. I mean, it's what we expected. There's only one that does it, so,
Okay.
I'd get at least somebody bid.
Counselor Devonaghy?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. One fast, I thought, not that matters me either way, but Holiday Point Road was supposed to be ground down, I believe, it's reground back to gravel road. Was that bypassed now or?
Through you, Madam Mayor, sorry, we would have to ask Keith Greenwood that, Counselor, I don't have that information.
No big deal.
Keith doesn't happen to be on this point in time. Okay, and I just have a question then primarily to treasurer, I guess, is how much was approved in budget for both these projects? Are we still within our budget?
Yeah, so overall, we actually had just under 1.4 million approved, and the costs here come to 1,133,000. I will say it's mostly Wolf came in less, and maybe Keith can speak to next time. I think there was less pulverizing needed than expected. Cow Island, I think overall the costs were within $5,000 of what we're budgeted. And then there's about a $250,000 difference from what we had budgeted for Wolf. With that being said, I do know there might be some more additional costs relating to rock that wouldn't be on this tender. So some of that money is being kind of spent elsewhere, but overall, we're happy to see that what we budgeted definitely came in kind of what we expected or less. So financially, we're in a good position.
Okay, and you keep on top of that, right?
Yes, yeah,
Oh, good.
biggest project, so.
Good. Okay. Seeing no further questions? All those in favor of
Awarding the contract?
awarding the contract? Yep, you gonna read it? Or,
It's already on the
Okay.
floor, so unless
All right.
council wishes me to reread the motion.
no, we're good. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're at the finance report, FN 002-25-2024 petition for subsidy with the Ontario Ministry of Transportation.
Perfect. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just to go through the back end of the report, there's kind of two purposes. The first is we're required to submit a petition for subsidy to MTO. This is required every year, and it's a part of our condition to receive the subsidy of 80%. Basically, this form just states what we have spent. It's just $1 amount. Ultimately, that has to be signed by myself representing from staff that we did incur all these expenses, and then it's signed by the head of council as well. So for the two reports, Simcoe Island overall expenditures were 742,000, where Howe Island was 476,000.
What? How much did you say?
Sorry, yeah, so I'll repeat that, and I'll give you the full dollar amounts if you're looking for it, but for 2024, Simcoe Island had $742,232.18, and Howe Island had $476,380.45. I'm gonna break down, so that kind of covers what goes on the petition. I've also attached for council this year, the subsidy payable, which breaks down where the revenues and expenses were. I don't know if this has always been provided to council, but I wanted to provide it this year just to give you guys kind of a clear picture where the costs are. So I'm gonna start first by talking for Simcoe Island. Overall, if you compare the two numbers, Simcoe Island comes in, you can see it's higher than Howe. This is primarily for two reasons. One, if you look at salary and benefits, this is higher on Simcoe because it's operating 24 hours, where Howe closes at midnight every day. Additionally, there was larger capital projects on Simcoe Island. It's still currently in progress, but the construction of the new ferry storage building kind of greatly increased the capital line item for Simcoe. Ultimately, at this point, based on what we received and what we claimed, we're still being owed around $450,230 from MTO. So upon signing the petition form today, I can submit that to MTO and they'll release final payment and we'll get that payment in. For Howe Island, again, it's a little bit lower, as mentioned before, around $476,000. On the Howe side, there was kind of no major capital project. There was an engine failure at one point, which is what we see there, and kind of finishing up a little bit with the ferry building. The thing not included in what I highlighted in the report, based from the county, they also submit reports MTO, and this is separate. They noted that they had a shortfall of $47,000. $47,586.50. Based on our agreement with the county, first, if they have any deficit, they hold a reserve, and if there's any money in there, they would then use the reserve to cover the deficit. But based on the terms of our agreement, if there's no money left in the reserves, that deficit ultimately becomes a township deficit. This year, they were able to apply what they had remaining, leaving the township with a total bill of $24,422.30. That is not on our subsidy reporting, and I did confirm with MTO just to make sure we weren't, leaving any dollars on the table. That is an expense the township incurs for our ferry service, but is not something that appears on our subsidy claim or our petition to MTO. Because basically it's the leftover funding that the county did not get covered by MTO. Ultimately, with that being said, with the petition and subsidy, we then in fact owe the county $24,000, but we still will receive from the MTO $241,833 from MTO this year. Regarding the amount we're owed from the county, it does have a transportation reserve. Historically, this reserve is used again to fund both road and ferry projects. If you look at the last couple of years, the reserve balance hasn't been very high. There was some surplus from 2024. But again, my recommendation to cover the costs that's due to the county, we would pull from what we have in the reserve, which we won't have a lot left over, but we do have enough to cover those costs for now. Anyways, so that was a lot of information. I'd be happy to take any questions from council at this time.
Councillor Hackley.
I just got a couple questions. $48,000 in cables for the Simcoe versus 15,000.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor.
That's a lot of cables.
Chief Hawkins can speak to if he wants to. I think it was a matter of ensuring that we had
It was
appropriate.
ministry that wanted the spare cable spot.
Oh, so that's,
We also have two cables, one cable's 11 grand.
yeah, so surplus.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
they
and
wanted spare cables on each side.
Kindly speak through the chair so we don't
Oh,
get
sorry.
three people talking at one time.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Through you. When the ferry first come, the ministry wanted, they pay for them anyway. It shows here, but that's part of the ferry, so that's 100% paid.
and second question, Madam Mayor, is the insurance difference. One's 28,000 for Howe Island and the other one's 5,300.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. That's because since MTO owns the Simcoe vessel, they pay for hull insurance. The only insurance that we paid for in 2024 was just for the operating, if there's risk to passengers and whatnot. So that difference is because we have hull insurance for the one that operates for Howe Island. As because we own the boat.
Oh, I get it now. Yeah. Bummer.
Okay, and just to be clear, we're sure that we own the Howe Island boat.
Yes.
Okay, good to know. Okay, Deputy Mayor Saunders, any questions?
No, thank you, Madam.
Okay, Councillor Halton,
No questions.
Councillor Jablonski.
No questions.
Okay, and so the point being that Chief Hawkins raised regarding the capital cost, it's not part of that 80%, that's a straight bill, straight 100% to the MTO, correct?
No, through you, Madam Mayor, the only capital costs that were reimbursed at 100 is we paid ownership fees, which no longer happens. So there was costs we incurred to 3GA. MTO, like I said in the report, that was reimbursed at 100%. Since that payment, 3GA now bills MTO directly, so we're not getting the invoice, we're not paying it. Otherwise, I think what Tim was referencing is if there's specific ownership costs relating to the vessel, MTO will reimburse at 100%. Otherwise, as operators, we're reimbursed at 80%. And again, that is on a term by term basis. If we believe there's an expense that should be 100%, reimbursed by MTO, we engage in a conversation and get clarity.
Okay, so just for clarity in that, I just heard that the cables were to be
So
reimbursed
through you, Madam
100%.
Mayor, any maintenance done on the ferry, because MTO owns it, they have to pay 100%, so the cable is part of the ferry.
No, yeah, it's cable's not at 100% per my conversations with MTO.
It should be, I
We
was
should
told
be
that it
having,
would be.
Yeah,
Why did they say that?
it's just based on the definitions of the agreement.
maybe we should have that looked at,
Yeah.
because that seems to be required to run the boat that they have. And that's a significant amount of money, as Councillor.
Well, that's a
Adams pointed out.
one-time thing too, Madam Mayor, because it's a new ferry. Plus, you gotta look at it too, the boat's twice the size as the one down there.
Yeah.
Everything's
Yeah,
Yeah,
but do we have one spare cable or two spare cables?
two on each side, there's one drive and one guide cable on each side, that's what the MTO wanted.
so through you, Madam Mayor, what I will answer is, I've had these discussions with them, I'd be happy to follow up again, if that eases some minds. I would suggest, since this would be an incremental, or, sorry, I guess what I would suggest, is we still sign the petition form today.
Yeah.
Because those ferries are included 7042, that hasn't changed. When I send it to them, they usually can do final confirmation before they send us the money. I'll raise that just as a final point, just to make sure we get a clear final answer, but again, from my understanding, it wasn't charged just based on the conversations I've had with them the last few months, but I'll double check.
Okay, and that other capital item of the 185,449 was the building.
Yes, mostly the building there.
All right. No, seeing no further questions? All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will send out a correction on the sheet.
Oh, I reprinted one, so
Oh,
it's just the way it went into diligent, but this has some photo. There's no detail on the back, but when you sign the front,
okay.
everything matches.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that is-
In case anybody hadn't noticed that in the package, here's a slight replication of the figures and that, so it's been updated. Okay. So the finance report number 003-25, seniors apartment rental.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Holton, that finance report number FN 003-25, seniors apartment rental rate analysis be received, and that council provide direction to staff on maximum rental rate that should be charged on vacant 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom units.
Okay. Would you like to present the report?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I will begin presenting. So just to give council some context, the reason for this report is that we recently had a vacancy. In determining what rents to charge, I just want to do analysis of the cost for the department. So the first thing I just want to make abundantly clear, this report, we will not be changing the rents for the individuals that currently occupy the building. They are currently rent controlled, so current practices, the province of Ontario sets allowable rent increases, and we follow what those allowable increases are, and those are tied to the CPI or inflation index. So again, what this analysis is really to identify that with the rents that we're charging, there's ultimately a shortfall where there's kind of a deficit. We're not raising enough rents ultimately to cover the operating costs as well as kind of the loan payments on the building. So when I did the analysis, we have one unit where we are potentially free as landlords to negotiate a new rent price with, a prospective new tenant. My analysis was based on the fact, we obviously would not be fair to try to cover all our shortfall through one tenant. So what was the rent price that if we charge all our tenants would allow us to cover the deficits that we currently have? So with that, ultimately, the current kind of rent that we're generating from the units, and I will clarify here with all the calculations, originally when rents were set, there was a 20% premium for the 2-bedroom unit. So when I do the proposed rent, I've also kept a 20% increase on the 2-bedroom unit. But currently raised through rents, we have around $67,000. Ultimately, the housing cost for the department the cost to run the apartment is just under $108,000, which leaves us with a $40,000 shortfall. again, plugging in the numbers, the rent that would be required to cover that shortfall, if we were able to, it would be $1,727.55 for the 1-bedroom units, or $2,073.06 for the 2-bedroom. To give context to council, I, with the help of our deputy clerk, we did a lot of research on prior minutes, how understanding the history. Again, from my understanding, the purpose of the building was to offer affordable rent for seniors on Wolf Island. So barring with that, in fact, I did a little market research that I could. Unfortunately, there's not great data that I could pull on just specifically from Wolf Island. But CMHC, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, they do send out surveys to landlords every year. And as seen by the map, Wolf Island and Howe Island are actually both included. When you look at the details, they're labeled as the remainder of Kingston CMA. Again, this isn't perfect data. It would also include from South Frontenac, but just to kind of give an idea, when we look at the average, and I checked the median as well, and it was fairly similar, but the average rent for 1-bedroom is $1,571 or $2,027 for a 2-bedroom. Again, with this market data, it doesn't necessarily include or exclude, let's say if utilities or hydro was included in rent. Basically, the landlord does a survey, whatever they put as the rent they charge, whether it includes, utilities or not, that's how they submit the survey. So again, those numbers might not necessarily reflect, additional utility, internet, other charges as is. Currently with our units, when our tenants pay rent, it includes everything. So parking, hydro, there are no extra charges that get, charged onto the tenants. Ultimately with this report, I think it's just from staff perspective, I just want to identify the shortfall. Like I said, there's currently still 4 occupied units, including the 2-bedroom. Those are not subject to any change. But looking forward to the future, I'm looking to know when we're trying to find a new tenant, what would be the maximum rent that we charge. We're still going to have a shortfall, but I think, again, just for council to clarify, as a township, are we trying to subsidize the rent where we have to use tax dollars to keep the rent lower? Or are we looking to operate the building to charge rent to cover our expenses to try to keep it, self-sufficient? And I guess last thing, just to highlight, there is currently a reserve for the senior apartment, estimated now to be $86,269. And that's kind of been used to kind of cover some of the shortfall in the past years.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Ackley?
Well, I definitely think that there should be a fair figure for, especially if we're gonna exceed the boundaries of the dollars don't cover the amounts going out. I think it needs to equal up somehow or somewhere. So I'm definitely for some kind of increase for sure.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Saunders, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple, thank you. For the new person renting, is there a requirement to be a senior?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, there is a requirement to be above the age of 65 years. We have reached out to legal counsel and confirmed that's an acceptable term as well.
So it is a senior's building.
Yes.
I just want to clarify that. And the other, I think you'd answered this earlier. This building is standalone. It's not a geared to income. It's not a retirement home. It's just a standalone. We're the landlord of a standalone apartment building that caters to seniors.
Yeah, be correct. Through you, Madam Mayor. Again, it's a seniors apartment, but as far as the relationship stands, we're not part of some organization or have additional reporting. It's not a retirement home. The relationship strictly is landlord and tenant with senior tenants.
So if I can, another question, Madam Mayor. So we promote this, the initial intent, as I understand it, was to provide low reasonable rent to seniors.
Yeah.
Are applicants required to be a resident of Wolf Island?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think generally, yes, it's the questions with regards to the application would ask, are you a resident of the island? And I will just add, we currently have a wait list, I believe over 20+ people signed up over the years. So basically when the unit comes up, we reach out to the wait list. But I think to be on the wait list is usually, they provide some information to us as well.
Okay. And you said there is a reserve?
Yes, there was a senior housing reserve currently at $86,000.
So how can we have a reserve that's costing money?
My best understanding from looking past is money was put in there as part of this project. What I will say is that there was grander plans. I think there was that one-time discussion about building 2 extra buildings to operate 3 with the same amount of units. Obviously with the change in council, there was just change in priorities.
I think there's a piece you're missing on that. The reserve is probably 20,000 a year that's been set aside at the beginning of this council's term for air conditioning, and that was a motion passed by
Yeah.
Councillor Jablonski, so that gets added into the reserve.
Yeah,
Generator, sorry.
yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Part of it was for the generator. I think even last council budget meeting, I remember I wasn't aware, and then it was added as part of the 25 one. What I will say is, yeah, money's been put in there. As it's the that reserve though, it's just not specifically for the generator. There has been like operating or other costs that have flowed through.
It's motion passed by council, but it gets put in there.
Yes, so the money for the generator stays, but I believe there's other money that has gone in there as well.
Okay.
And my last question, Tyler. So once we've established the rent for the vacant unit, that rent, that now will be subject to landlord and tenant limitations, right? So we can't, if we want to say it's $1,500, we want to go 2,000, we can't just keep loaning at $500 or $250 a month or a year. Once you've established that, now it's subject to rent control.
Yeah, through your Madam Mayor. So once we set a rent, the allowable increases is what's set by the province, and we would not be able to exceed them.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Holton?
I think this is long overdue. I mean, we're losing 40,000 a year. We're gonna have those reserves gone in 2 years. This is still very, very reasonable. If it's 1,800, it's very reasonable. I don't think we can continue to subsidize 5 or 6 seniors on Wolf Island and not the rest of them. So I think we need to get this rent to cover.
Councillor Jablonski?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The same sentiments. We have to get close to the 40,000 shortfall. So let's raise it. And one more question. We can go 2.5%, whatever the province prescribes every year. So we say $1,500 is the number to start with. It doesn't rent for a year. Now can we add 2.5 to it from next year? So now it's 17 plus 2.5.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So basically, when there's no one in it, we can choose whatever we want. It's based on we're finding a tenant that agrees to the price. Once the tenant's in, let's say we had an agreement and they said 1,500, at that point, whatever the allowable increase was. So again, for 2025, for the units that we did have, there was a 2.5% allowable increase.
Thanks, Jesse.
Okay. Some historical context, and that it wasn't just a generation of the council, although Frontenac Island's council previous was the first one to take the envelope of funding that arrived at the upper tier for provision of subsidized housing. And that's where the initial amount of money came from for building a standalone, and Weatherall donated the land, I believe, for it as well. So I think we need to make sure that we aren't in violation of any agreement for that funding, because usually when you get funding from the government or CMHC for subsidized housing, there's a 20-year clause. It says for 20 years, that's going to be a lower rate, a 20% less than market rate. And the fact that we are sadly still involved in the urban designation of Kingston for market rate, where Homestead is the major landlord of the area, is not the best comparator. I would think that Central and North Frontenac would be better, because South Frontenac is also unfortunately captured into the stats for that. So I would question and it's not that I don't want us to run in a deficit, but I want to make sure that we aren't violating any previous agreements that can come back on us. And B, that it's a fair comparator in that, because we are not Kingston providing a lot of services. We're not Homestead or anything of that nature. So I think that our comparators should be Central and North Frontenac, or even Lanark, someplace more rural than what we're currently being looked at. And I think a conversation with Kevin Farrell, and he, while he wasn't the CEO of the county at the time, he was certainly involved in that. And in his previous role, that he'd have knowledge, and Jeanette Amini would also have good knowledge. I just want to make sure that we aren't breaking with that. And I do understand that the service manager of Kingston, there's 47 service managers for social housing in Ontario, and Kingston looks after that. And I believe we are part of that agreement, and that's why we have people that are not Islanders in some of those residents. So I appreciate the research you did, but I want to make sure that we don't end up shooting ourselves in the foot, because I believe it was around $700,000 was our share put towards building of that building, and we had to put in more, and we got the land and that, but it's not that it was just a gift from the government. We need to make sure that we aren't in violation of anything. So I hope you could bring back a bit more information to my questions and that.
Through Madam Mayor, the one question, so the money, you are correct, there was some funding from the County of Frontenac as an upper tier. There was a housing task force, so I did reach out to the county and I asked, is there, with regards to setting rent, is there any involvement from the county? And I was instructed that it was a township decision made by the council of the Township of Frontenac Islands.
Shocking that they set such a low rent right off the hop, because
So through my, and my, again, my history is, there used to be a subcommittee, I forget the exact name, it was for housing on the islands, and they proposed the rent, which then the CEO at the time, Darlene, took to the Frontenac Islands Council. So again, from my research, again, the minutes and all that, the 1,000 and the 1,200 or 1,200 was just set by the Frontenac Islands Council.
okay. Well, I'll stand by if you've verified that we're not under that 20-year obligation for being 20% below market rent. I still think the market rent should be in Central and North Frontenac comparator rather than Kingston, because it is a rural community with no additional luxuries in that fort. Another piece on that, there might not be any hindrance for that empty unit to actually have its electric separated out and become a billable for the tenant while it's a vacant unit. It's more problematic if they're living in it, but if it's an empty unit, the landlord has that right to turn around and that may be a significant saving right there.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, yeah, I guess as far as the electrical, we didn't look at separating out. We were, again, looking at the rent we charge for the service we offer. So, yeah, to your point, at that piece hasn't been looked at.
Yeah, because there is an opportunity to separate that out. Usually you have to go through landlord tenant board if they're a tenant, but if it's a vacant unit, and that's just a checking on that, but I think that would be a significant savings. Okay, so.
Yeah, I guess through Madam Mayor, just to kind of clarify again what I'm looking for. At this point, we are looking to fill a new tenant. So again, that's basis on if there's, interest in the market. So I'm just looking for what council would deem would be the maximum that staff would be looking to get with a new tenant. And then we do our best to fill in that occupancy, charging that maximum rent.
Okay, my question, I guess, is do we have enough information to make an informed decision at this point, Councillor Hall?
I think we have more than enough. It's not very hard. We need to get to market rent. That is a cheap price. I question where you think you'd ever go and rent a full service apartment. This has laundry, this has your heat, your hydro, your snow removal. There's a paved parking lot. This is a first-class place to live. So that is dirt cheap at $1,800.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll read the motion.
Motion on the table is that finance report number FN 00325, seniors apartment rental rate analysis be received, and that council provide direction to staff on maximum rental rate that should be charged on vacant one bedroom or two bedroom units.
We don't have an actual price.
So through you, Madam Mayor, I guess, so the numbers presented, we have what we currently have. I've presented numbers for the monthly rent requirement, so it'd be $1,727.55 for a one bedroom and $2,073.06 for a two bedroom. I would be looking for direction for both, just on the off chance that the two bedroom came available, instead of going back to council, these would be, you know, the maximum rents we had set for the rest of the year. Additionally, again, we do have the CMHC information, which isn't, you know, as much as tied to our financials. But again, I did provide the average rent just based on, you know, the data that is out there.
Okay, I'm gonna make this a recorded vote. Now that we have those additional figures included in this.
Can I ask what figures we're gonna use though, exactly, before we vote on something?
Okay, and that's,
So through you, Madam Mayor, so I've put, if this is okay with the Deputy Mayor Saunders, who's moved it, and Councillor Halton, who's seconded it, charge one vacant one bedroom or two bedroom units as outlined in the finance report, which would be $1,727.55 for the one bedroom and $2,073.06 for a two bedroom unit.
okay, Councillor Holton.
I would propose that we round them both up to the nearest hundred, so 1,800 and 2,100. Very simple.
It's your own amendments, so you'd need to get your seconder to agree to that, I think.
That's it. I would second that amendment.
Okay, do we need further discussion on that?
Through the Madam Mayor, if I could just make
Yeah.
one point, obviously the numbers I had was for the operating costs, I didn't take into account capital, so. Again, charging those extra amounts, if there was for whatever reason a surplus, that would stay within the reserve and could maybe be used to fund, you know. Some more significant major capital repairs that are probably expected, you know, over like the longer life of the building.
All right, and so it's gonna be recorded vote.
Yes, okay. So, Councillor Ackland,
In favor.
Councillor Holton,
In favor.
Councillor Twonky,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Saunders,
In favor?
Mayor Greenwood Spears,
Opposed.
motion is carried.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, we have administrative report number AD 006-25, stop up, close, and sell a portion of property on Center Street.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Holton, seconded by Councillor Jablonski, that administration report number AD 006-25, stop up, close, and sell a portion of Center Street, as well as declare part 2 on reference plan 13R23340 as surplus to the needs of the municipality. And that council declares the property legally described as part 2 on reference plan 13R23340, part of lot 3 and part of Center Street, plan 26, pin number 36317-0148R, instrument number FR 468396, owned by the Township of Frontenac Islands as surplus to the needs of the municipality. And that council authorized the sale of part 2 on plan 13R23340 on Center Street to the adjacent property owners. And that council directs staff to complete all necessary procedures, and bylaw enactment to facilitate the closure and sale.
Okay. Councillor Ackley, any questions?
No question.
Deputy Mayor Saunders, any questions?
No questions, but I want to thank staff for clearing up these complex surveys. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Holton, any questions?
No questions. This is housekeeping item. This is, should have been done long ago, so it's fine.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
No questions.
Okay, I got one quick one under the legal and legislative requirements. The last line says, input from affected stakeholders and residents. I'm not aware of any notification going out to any residents for input onto this.
Just so it was the adjacent property owner that was had discussed,
Okay, so,
is it affects them.
okay, so no residents. All right, and that's just the road allowance, that's not including the parcel that used to be where the fire hall was?
No, this is just part 2 on this plan.
Yeah, it wasn't the clearest document, but okay. All right, all those in favor?
No.
Carried. Okay, administrative report, draft delegation authority bylaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Halton, seconded by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that administration report number AD 007-25, delegated authority bylaw be received, and that council approve the draft delegated authority bylaw as outlined in this report, and that council direct staff to proceed with the necessary steps for the adoption of the delegated authority bylaw.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Ackley?
I'm just reviewing, can you give me a minute?
Yes, you can. Deputy Mayor Saunders, you ready?
No question, Peg, and I want to thank the staff for digging into all these outdated bylaws, procedures, everything else, so we can get ourselves on even footing and fully understanding what the authorities are and signing authorities are. So thank you again.
Okay, Councillor Holton,
No question.
Councillor Devontae.
Thanks, ma'am. Just one question for my own clarity, just so I had to see at night time. Are these all minor variances? Like they're just changes within the property lines of people's houses and stuff? Is this minor? Is it be a major variance too, or?
So with respect to, is it, which page, I'm sorry.
I thought it was all minor variances, like say a porch or something too close to the water or something along those lines, or is it anything larger than that?
So this is separate from that, through you, Madam Mayor. We've approved a delegated authority with regards to planning, various planning applications last year. This is along the same line, only not to do with plan. So if there is, simple agreements kind of thing, rental agreements, school board, vendor agreements, that type of thing. As long as it was within the annual budget, it would authorize the clerk and the treasurer to enter into those agreements kind of thing. Unless there was something more complicated or complex, then we would bring that to, certainly to council, but it's along that line.
Thanks, great, thank you.
Okay,
I did, Madam Mayor. I did have one question.
Yeah.
So in here, I saw, I can't find it now, because again, I have multiple copies of stuff here and got a little confused. I see where it allows the Madam Mayor and you, the CAO, Vanessa, to give a stamp for an approval for a subdivision or something like that in there. So I'd like to put this off for a month so I could review this a little bit better.
Certainly, I'm not looking to pass the bylaw today.
Yeah.
I'm just presenting the draft delegation bylaw. So, yeah, it's not on the table even
Okay.
before first and second reading today at this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
So if I may, Madam Mayor, then, if anybody has any specific questions or anything like that, please send them to me in an email, and then I will respond back and prepare the next.
Okay, but I will give a verbal now of my questions and that so that council can think about it and they may. I had also flagged that number one spot, we don't have a strategic plan or update zoning, so I thought it was too powerful as well. And then on point 6, the manager supervisor designate, it cut itself off and finished with a but, and that permission to enter agreements and other documents permitting the township
Oh, it
contractors.
just needs, it's there, it just needs to be pulled down. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. And at point 5, and that I was concerned, it is subject to the procurement bylaw and that, but since we've been burned in the past with some questionable designs, and that I just was a little hesitant on that one. Point 10, regarding the purchase and sales and that had been approved by council. I guess that's straightforward enough, but it just sort of caught my attention that I need to go back to the council on that. Point 15, amend the records retention, including cause the destruction of corporate records that have been retained. I'm always concerned with that. It's nice that, we do have, tax records that go back to the 1800s, et cetera, on that. But then when we go searching for some reports that are even just 15 or 20 years old, it can be quite the search. And I know usually there's only a very few records that have to be retained permanently by municipality. Perhaps if we had a list of what those records are and which ones can be disposed of.
Certainly through you, Madam Mayor, that's with regards to our records retention bylaw, which I can certainly send. That being said, it needs to be updated as well, and it needs to be signed off by our auditor. That's certainly on one of our to-do lists to bring a records retention bylaw updated to council, but I can certainly send you our current records retention bylaw.
Okay, and point 19 regarding the lame duck periods and that, excuse me, I stopped and went back and looked at that act and that for what is defined as lame duck periods and that, and if the majority of council are still standing during the election timeframe, there is no lame duck period.
That's correct.
Okay, and also under that piece is in paragraphs 2, 3, 4, I had questions regarding the CEO being able to appoint and remove from office any officer of the municipality during the appointment is not required under the act. And that dispose of any real or personal property of the municipality which has value exceeding 50,000 at that time of disposal, and make any expenditures or incur any other liability which exceeds 50,000, which is not approved in the annual budget provided by council. I didn't see why those should occur.
That's all specific to section 275 of the municipal act. It's right outlined in the municipal act. So during a lame duck period, if the majority of members are not running to seek re-election, then the lame duck would come into play and the CAO would have those authorities. If there is no lame duck period, then those authorities would not apply.
Okay, but even with the authority, does it mention the exceeding 50,000 in that act?
Specific 275, yes.
Okay, all right. And let's see. The point 20 CEO and treasurer documents required for settlement of comprehensive or compromise of any claim, action, application, or other proceeding brought or made during against subject to the parameters of township insurance. And I was just wondering regarding that piece to make sure that it is always brought to the township if there's an insurance claim that has been made, so that the council is aware of it. And in 24, clerk and applicable manager supervisor bringing bylaws without the submission of corresponding staff report for the records management and retention, dedication of roads as part of a public highway system and assumption of services and works within the approved subdivisions. I think we should probably have a report, a staff report on any of those so that we have a better understanding.
So you're looking to strike
Did we do that?
24, I'm sorry?
Pardon?
Are you looking to strike 24, I'm sorry?
No, I want to say that without the submission of a corresponding staff report. So I think those 3 areas, and that should have, matter of fact, I think this staff report should assist a lot in that, but those 3 areas in particular, I think would be assisted by a staff report.
Can we have these questions emailed in? There's getting quite a bit of writing there and it's just.
Councillor Holton, you don't have the floor. Thank you very
You
much.
recognized me already, man.
No, I didn't. I went on to here.
Oh, yeah.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Yep.
Are you gonna call?
Would you stand up and do your point of order?
So you have to recognize the point of order, right?
Point of order.
Okay,
I'm in the, yeah.
I'll stand up. Recognizing the comment or question raised by the CEO and the follow-up comment by Councillor Halton, I think we'd all benefit if we had these questions and comments put in writing, in fairness to staff, so they can record them all, and in fairness to council, so that we can review them. I'm sure. Are you catching my-
I'm listening.
Okay. So that we all have a chance to take your thoughts under consideration and make our own comments.
Okay. I was planning on sending an email out. for
I think
each
you have to rule on
comments.
the point of order.
Okay. I went around the room and asked everyone for their individual comments.
So I believe you have to
Yes.
rule on the point of order.
Okay, and the point of order,
I just,
okay. I would say that I have the same right to voice my questions at this point in time, and I would follow up with the email to the CAO, so that it's on the public record as to what my questions are, and not just to the CAO, since this is part of the public record.
okay, so I believe you're required as a head of council to recognize and have a vote on the point of order. All you're
Okay.
doing now is explaining what your. thoughts are.
Okay, and I will say to that, that we have not had additional training as was recommended by our council on that to have point of order. So I do recall that. Thank you very much. We'll have a vote on it then.
Okay, so you're gonna vote on the point of order, which is to
I'll
honor
step
this,
aside for the vote of that.
sorry.
I think I need to step aside for the point of order. No, I don't. Okay, I can call a vote on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All those in favor of, have you got that recorded? The point of order, but do you have it recorded?
Essentially, it's questions put in writing and sent to council and staff so it allows council the opportunity to review Madam Mayor's comments and questions and staff response. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. So is the interpretation of that, it precludes me from providing any more verbal?
Correct.
Okay.
So the motion's on the floor, moved by Councillor Halton, second by Deputy Mayor Saunders, with respect to AD 007. Council approved the draft delegated report bylaw as outlined in this report, and council directs staff to proceed with the necessary steps for the adoption of the delegated authority bylaw.
This will be a recorded vote.
Councillor Ashton?
Can you repeat that again?
So the motion that's on the floor is that the administration report AD 007-25 delegated authority bylaw be received, and that council approves the draft delegated authority bylaw as outlined in this report, and that council directs staff to proceed with the necessary steps for the adoption of the delegated authority bylaw.
So it's a draft.
So this is just draft for now.
Correct. Councillor Ackman? Councillor Halton?
In favor.
Councillor Jablonski?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Saunders?
In favor?
Mayor Greenwood Spears?
Nay.
Motion is carried.
Okay. Now we have administrative report number AD 008-25, Howe Island Parish Hall lease.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Ackley, that administration report number AD 008-25, Parish Hall lease be received, and that council provide direction on the potential long-term lease of the Parish Hall on Howe Island from the Archdiocese, and that council authorize staff to continue discussions with the Archdiocese and St. Philomena's Church representatives to finalize lease terms, and that council direct staff to report back with a finalized lease agreement for council approval.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Ackley?
I don't have any question. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Saunders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When it comes back, can we expect a report from either the CEO or the treasurer in terms of the financial impact, short and long term?
We will definitely work on one together, yes.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Holton,
I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
So,
Counselor Jablonski,
Good idea as well, support it.
okay. I wonder where it came from, because it wasn't raised as part of our budget consideration at any point in time before.
No, so through you, Madam Mayor, it was something that had been discussed amongst staff over here with regards to additional space for residents. I did initially reach out to the representatives from the parish hall. Staff met with them just to see if they would be interested. They certainly took it back to the father and the Archdiocese Council. They reached back to me and indicated that yes, they would be interested in doing a lease. And I said that I would need direction from council going forward as to whether they would be interested in pursuing this avenue or not. So that's why the report is before council today.
Okay, does this have any implication with our procurement policy?
No, because we're not, it's not an actual good that we are purchasing. We're not purchasing, we're entering into a lease. Excuse me.
And through you, Madam Mayor, more will kind of come if we proceed, but the thresholds and whatnot, likely would be met for the procurement policy, just the larger ones.
I will say I was surprised to see this come along without initial discussion from council and direction being given by council to enter into any opportunity. And without having a strategic plan in place, and that this was not even identified by the community as a need. And it will increase a cost to the community in that it already is absorbed by groups individually, in that if they need that hall, they pay for it, and we don't have the liability of needing a new roof or anything else for it.
We would take on that
We
liability.
would today.
Yeah, and through you, Madam Mayor, just, it would be, again, if this went down the road, it would be, have to adhere to our fees and charges by law. So again, there would be some revenue generated from it as well, but like Vanessa said to Deputy Mayor Saunders, we'll definitely do a financial forecast and lay all those costs out. So council won't be making any decision until they're fully informed on all the terms and what the impact would be on the township.
Yeah, because it did mention in here under financial implications, maintenance, utilities, and insurance, as well as operational costs. So I was just surprised that it ever came forward and got that far. Okay.
Any further discussion?
All those in favor? Carry. Okay, administration report AD 009-25 survey results and recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Councillor Jablonski, seconded by Councillor Holton, that administration report number AD 009-25 survey results and recommendation for 2-hour ferry layover be received, and that council consider the feedback received and provide direction on the preferred layover schedule, and that council direct staff to prepare a letter to the Ministry of Transportation requesting the implementation of the new layover period when the Wolf Islander 4 returns to service.
Okay. Councillor Ackley, you have any questions?
The only question I have is, we did a survey and only, less than 200 people, or 200 people,
109.
yeah, 109 in total.
I know. And during the public meeting through you, Madam Mayor, we had, I believe, 10 residents in attendance.
Yeah. And there's 1,200 residents, 1,500 residents.
Yeah.
So
None of
it's
that.
no, it's not a big matter then.
Okay. No. Okay. Deputy Mayor Saunders.
No, thank you.
Councillor Holton.
I'm not surprised with the results. It is a small sample, but in talking to people, that would be the preferred time for layovers.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm actually surprised we got 109 out of that. There were so many other surveys being put out there. People were asking are these real or not. So I think this represents option 2. Personally, I like option 2 myself too, so.
Well, since I'm not aware of any other survey other than what I did after this was well done. And that well done past the time frame. That's exactly why I held off. But in this, it talks about option 2, and it's not a 2-hour layover indicated. It says 2340 to 120, which to me is an hour and 20 minutes. And that, not a 2 hour. So can you clarify what that time frame is, if it's agreeable time frame?
Those times were from MTO schedule, so I will verify with MTO, but yes.
I think it's a very important time frame difference in that to get clarified. Because it looks to me that it should be from 2340 to 140 in the morning. If we're doing the same 2-hour time frame. So if that's the case, it is a low volume survey. It's very low volume actually in that, and I'm not convinced that it is very reflective of too much, but if the times were actually wrong on it, then that's even worse because 1:40 in the morning is a lot different. And you said that this was a survey that was proposed by MTO?
No, it was not proposed by MTO, Madam Mayor. What they had indicated was in order for them to change from the current 2140, they would need direction from council to make that change. So in a report that I prepared in November of last year, I indicated that I would do a survey as well as a public meeting to get the input from the residents.
Okay, so I go back to my point, option 2 seems to have the wrong times on it. Can you verify on the survey, did it have the correct times on it?
I don't have that information from me right now, Madam Mayor.
I think the overall gist is that the islanders that did respond wanted to get it as late as possible into the night. And I don't believe the option 3 was the clearest that, suggest any other time. And I know there were suggestions of during the tie-up time, because the Wolf Islander 4, same as Wolf Islander 3, does have a tie-up time during the night. And there were lots of other questions, but Councilor or Deputy Mayor Saunders, you have a question now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While the title of 2-hour layover may be incorrect or misleading, this option 2 is actually a shorter period of time, which is a benefit, right?
Yeah.
So it's down for less time. So I think that's a bonus.
That's the question. Because if it's an error on our part and MTO never agreed to that piece, then that would be problematic. Chief
Madam Mayor,
Hawkins.
wasn't that over 2 trips before? It wasn't like a 2-hour layover, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was over 2 trips.
No, they would tie up at the 2140 to 2340. Or 2120, I think it was. Because I had to leave a movie early to make sure I caught the boat. Maybe 9 o'clock.
I didn't travel that late, so.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
It didn't affect me.
it interferes with a few other things, but I'm just, if we have misled the islanders that it's actually 2340 to 140, and that may have some weight in it.
Well,
And certainly-
MTO, as he says, might bite on that, and they might not.
Yeah.
Plus, complete infrastructure is a variance, so you don't even know if they're gonna need that once everything's done.
If they're doing it that late, the question would also be in that, can you not do it after it ties up? Which is when much of the other stuff occurred. Councillor Holton.
I think what we did get out of it is the majority of people would like to see it as late as possible, so we'll have to, this has to be approved by MTO anyways, but we can tell them that they want it as late as possible, so if the times aren't exactly right, I mean, it's still want it as late as possible, so I think we can take that out of it.
Does the CAO feel confident that you have adequately surveyed the residents of Wolf Island in this regard?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, certainly the surveys went to every resident that receives a tax bill. If they chose not to complete the survey, there's nothing really I can do about that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I'm not as satisfied, but
What time's the boat shut down? At night? What time's the,
yeah, it shuts down.
at 2?
It used to be at 2 o'clock was the last boat from Kingston that tied up on the island side. With the new Wolf Islander 4 schedule, I believe it was 2:20.
And then they do repairs?
That's when they used to do the cleaning
Yeah,
and
cleaning.
training and everything.
Yeah.
This is proposing to have that done
Mhm.
at a 2-hour layover when people are still traveling. And it used to tie up on the island side because we had ambulance service that we could get the ambulance off the island fast as possible. So some of the comments that were made during the time frame were to actually have it tie up on the Kingston side, because that's where the ambulance is. So that's a piece of discussion that probably should be engaged at some point as well. I honestly think we could do a better survey. And in a tighter time frame. I know there was a lot of effort done in sending it out via the taxes. However, it landed at Howe Island, and I hope that none of the Howe Islanders made any comment on it. There wasn't a lot of time frame given. 2 have been handed back to me, and I let the CA know, unfortunately, past the close time of the survey. And I just think I'd be far more comfortable in that if we had a tighter timeline on an aggressive survey to make sure that everybody had the right information myself. Councillor Ackley.
Again, I think we're way jumping the gun here, because we haven't got the boat infrastructure finished yet to know it's the speeds, capabilities. The boat hasn't even ran a full winter yet. So, you know, if this is the plan, whether we have 2 boats or 1 boat or what we get stuck with, nothing's finished here. It's hard to vote on something that you can't make a serious decision on. You know, like we're guessing here that this is gonna be better or whatever. It's tough right now, like, and nothing's finished. When the infrastructure's done, I think that's our go time to figure out with MTO after they run it a month or 2 months and figure out, hey, this is working or this isn't working. We don't know yet.
Okay, but just for background, right now, for the 3 months that the Wolf Islander 4 did run, it did tie up.
Mhm.
At 9:20, 9 o'clock at night, and that it did a 2-hour tie up, and that it was very arduous for a lot of, kids coming back from hockey games, people going over to the K-Rock Center, et cetera. It was extremely limiting in that. So if there's a way to at least get them to move it to much later into the night, preferably during the tie-up time, would be ideal, but getting it much later, the survey itself, Matt, I feel far more confident if we had even 16% is usually the standard that you'd look at to see if there's a valid survey. And this is really quite low. And I do appreciate that it was sent out in the tax bill. There was a public meeting held. Not incredibly easy to find the survey on our website because I searched for it myself and I couldn't find it. I don't think that we've done the best job. That being said, if it comes back into service and it has the same 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock layover, basically, that was not good for the island. That's clear in the survey results. They want it as late as possible.
So Madam Mayor, if I could, are you proposing we resurvey or like, as I understand, we're either gonna vote on this one or we're gonna turn it down and resurvey? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm thinking yes, Matt, and
Then can you propose an amendment?
I think we'd have to vote this one down first. And then it comes in as a new motion. I'll turn to the clerk and ask her.
So if this motion is lost, then there's nothing on the table. So whereas if you amend this, you can amend it to strike the third paragraph and change it to council direct staff to prepare a new, more robust survey or whatever your wording is that you want to do.
Do we have any indication at all from MTO as to when the Wolf Islander 4 is expected back?
Not at this time.
I think an amendment to direct the CAO to clarify if the 2340 to 1 AM is acceptable at this time. I think the other question that we need to ask is where the ferry should be tied up at night. Because at this point in time, if the ferry's tied up on the Wolf Island side, and if we haven't got an ambulance over here, it has to head to town, pick up the ambulance and come back. So I think that's the conversation for the residents that are going to be most severely affected by this, given our circumstances. I'm looking at Chief Hawkins because I know your crew would be the first one landing at any problem. But would it be the most expeditious to have it tied up on the on the mainland
I don't
side?
know, people still, islanders that still know how to hit the system, phone the ferry and say, I'm coming.
So, Madam Mayor, is this part of your amendment?
I'm getting some consultation here and that, so that's why I'm thinking. Yeah, I think that we need to do another survey that is a little bit more comprehensive.
Okay.
And that looks at both timing for the layover as well as the side that the boat is actually tied up on, so that we have the idea that the residents are supportive, because it is true in that if we have an emergency and the boat is not there, it's gonna have to come from Kingston. But if we have an emergency and somebody's dialed 911, that boat's gonna take off to Kingston anyways to pick up the ambulance, so it actually worsens the scenario.
So, Madam Mayor, you have to put your motion on the floor,
I know, yeah,
and you'll need a second.
I'm working on it. And then to direct the CAO.
So Madam Mayor, if I may, I've been taking notes. So that council direct the CAO to clarify the 2340 PM to 1 AM layover period is suitable to MTO, and to conduct another survey for timing and location for the overnight tie-up. Does that cover everything we were seeking?
Yes.
So the motion's on the floor, and we need a seconder.
Yes. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Seeing none, the amendment is defeated.
Hand the chair back to me because I didn't give it. Okay,
So the motion on the floor is moved by Councillor Dwanke, seconded by Councillor Holton, that administration report number AD 009-25, survey results and recommendation for 2-hour ferry layover be received, and that council consider the feedback received and provide direction on the preferred layover schedule, and that council direct staff to prepare a letter to the Ministry of Transportation requesting the implementation of the new layover period when the Wolf Islander 4 returns to service.
and we'll have a recorded vote.
Councillor Abbott? Councillor Holton?
In favor.
Councillor Dwanke?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Saunders?
In favor?
Mayor Greenwood Spears?
Nay.
Motion's carried.
Okay, administration report number AD 010-25, the AMO conference.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Holton, that administration report number AD 010-25, email conference be received, and that council direct staff to submit a delegation request, to the applicable ministries once the request process is open to the municipalities.
Okay, questions, Councillor Axley?
I don't have any comments.
Okay, Councillor Saunders, or Deputy Mayor Saunders?
I'm not in favor of seeking any delegation requests. We have had this now for 2 years. We've seen no positive response or documentation or any action that's resulted from these delegation requests. So right now, I think it's a good use of taxpayers' dollars, so I would not be in favor of submitting, having a person attend or submitting a request for delegations.
Okay, Councillor Holton?
I would be of the same opinion. The delegations have not to date gained us anything. And they've been a very sore point with this council, so I would not be in favor of applying for any. And if somebody wants to go, please sign up and go. I did for the Good Roads Convention. I didn't make it because I fell, but I was still at the money for going. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry this is back up on the table because we discussed this at the start of budget time that we'll not be financing these junkets out to these shows. I've been to one, I know it's only one, but it was a waste of time and I would have been felt bad if taxpayers had paid for that. So no, I don't support this at all. You want to go, if anybody wants to go to these things, please pay yourself. I can go one step further. If you can go to one of these shows and show a real positive, something come back to us, say, yes, this actually helped quite a bit. Then maybe I look at reimbursing people, but not just to go there and socialize and no, it's not. No.
Okay, well, I will give you a positive example of what came out of making the networking that goes on at these conferences, and that's when we had our film crew that came to Wolf Island that did not have great direction on who they need to get their permissions from. And it came within the last week of when there was a crew of 70 people coming to the island. And when they ran into the wall, because they had not been made aware ahead of time of who they need to get permissions from, it was my familiarity with some of the ministers that I contacted their office and asked them to help, as well as the Kemptville office of the Ministry of Environment. And I was literally standing on the front lawn of one of the residents that was going to become an alternate site rather than our big sandy bay, when at 5:30 the minister's office called through and said, we've got it through legal, you can use big sandy bay, which they own. And that was done within less than 7 days, which is lightning speed in that. And that was because there had been contact made and I knew which buttons to push to try to get that over the lineup. And out of that, we ended up with economic opportunity that afforded everything from food to accommodation to parking, apparently we charged them for, to people providing equipment. But that was a concrete example of, because I had known and made contact with these ministers, it was able to happen. It would not have happened without my intervention and without a minister's intervention in the end. So building networking is very important. And these, Councillor Jablonski said that he's attended, you actually came for the quote delegation. I met you guys when you were coming up from the,
Yes.
you missed all the conference training, all the networking opportunities. There's a wealth of knowledge. It's unfortunate that Deputy Mayor Saunders sees no value in it because he's been to a couple of them, and that's his opinion. That I recognize the value of it, and the most of all municipalities in Ontario, and especially small ones, these are opportunities to actually have an opportunity to talk to the ministry staff, and we actually get to punch above our weight. So I find that it is very short-sighted on this council to not take part in it. I had encouraged all the way along that we should. Okay?
Now, through you, Madam Mayor, I did just want to highlight, you did have connections you put in touch, but that specific scenario did require a lot of staff time to talk to the additional people for Big Sandy Bay, so I just wanted to highlight it was, a lot of work for staff with very little benefit, but
As well as we invoiced, but they did not pay for the parking.
We ought to pay for the parking anyways, but anyways, it was something that benefited us, I would say, from an economic development perspective, the goodwill perspective, as well as many people on the island made money on it. So that's a concrete example. And I will be attending in that, and I had a budget that was not included in this year's, but I had it included in last year's, and yet it still got denied, and it's unfortunate. I do think that we should have delegations both to the Ministry of Health as well as Ministry of Transportation. I think we have major issues. It'd be nice to have infrastructure. But if this council doesn't want to pursue these opportunities, it's unfortunate.
Through you, Madam Mayor, then if I may, just from the discussion that's occurred at the table, I would strike the second paragraph, being that council direct staff to submit a delegation request to the applicable ministries once the process is open. So if Deputy Mayor Saunders and Councillor Halton is good with me striking the second paragraph and just receiving the AMO conference report.
I'm okay with that.
Thank you. At the request of Mayor Greenwood Spears, the motion or the vote is to be recorded as Councillor Ackley,
I'm in favor of your motion.
Councillor Halton,
I guess in favor.
Councillor Jablonski,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Saunders,
In favor?
Mayor Greenwood Spears, nay. Motion is carried. Just a reminder to everyone, it is 12:10. We did begin at 9:30. So I'm not sure how quickly we can get through these next items, but we would need to extend the meeting once we get close to 12:30.
So noted. Now we have action items required. Virginia Clark, Wolf Island Music Festival request for exemption of the noise bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Jablonski, second by Councillor Ackley, that the request received from Virginia Clark requesting an exemption to the noise bylaw for the Wolf Island Music Festival being held on Friday, August the 8th and Saturday, August the 9th be granted as requested, and that council direct staff to provide a letter of support for the AGCO liquor license application.
Any discussion? Councillor Ackley,
No discussion.
Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Member. I would bow to the opinions of the two Wolf Island councillors, as they be more directly impacted.
Okay, Councillor Holton.
This was held last year, went well. I think it's a great idea. I favor this.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski.
No, echo Dan Halton's sentiments as well, and also a great thing to go to as well.
Yep, seems like a lot of fun. All those in favor? Carried. Now, request from the Better Service for Wolf Islanders regarding the dual ferry service letter.
Moved by Councillor Holton, seconded by Councillor Jablonski, that the request received from Better Service for Wolf Islanders regarding dual ferry service be received. Excuse me, and that council bring forward Deputy Mayor Saunders' motion regarding dual ferry service earlier than the September 2025 meeting as they have requested.
Okay, discussion, Councillor Ackley.
Again, it's hard to ask for something when we don't even know the new ferry runs, like, when's it coming back, when's it gonna run? It might not be back till late summer when we need it most.
This is just the request that the motion that we had 2 months ago be brought back earlier than the September. We had deferred the motion to September, council.
I'm not in favor.
Not in favor, okay, good. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. since I proposed the original one, we gave a lot of thought to this, so we thought the intent was give MTO a chance to run the floor and get some background, understand what the capacity was and all that kind of stuff. If there's a change of thought by council, then I would be willing, I guess, to request the term is, bear with me for a second. A motion to reconsider. But if all of council is currently okay with the current motion that's before us or that was passed, then I'm okay with the way it is.
Okay, Councillor Holton.
I'm okay with proceeding to ask for this. I think, again, to Councillor Ackley's, it's a little premature. If we don't have the 4 here, and we aren't gonna have the 4 for the whole season, it's kind of hard to do a study on it, but, I mean, I guess you could ask, and they could tell us no if the 4's not here.
Councillor Jablonski.
Councilor Zacco, thanks, Madam Mayor. Actually, I echo Councilor Zackley's suggestion that we don't have the 4 running yet. Like, I'm too sure how to prepare something we don't have actually running full out, and then there's the infrastructure again hasn't been put in place. Yeah, I don't want to put the cart before the horse again here, but try to get the study done. We haven't improved the baseline yet. I'm in favor, to tell you the truth.
Okay. And it's all hypothetical anyways, because we have no idea when the 4 is coming back in. I can say that on the thumbnail survey that I did complete, and you're welcome to make a copy of it for any of you that haven't got one. I asked the question that whether or not we should keep pressure on the province for the dual ferry or accept the Wolfounder 4 as the sole option. 83% of the people, and I had 230 in the span of less than 4 days, complete that survey. So my point being, if we get organized as a council to do a specific ferry type of survey, we might get the responses that people will support, and we can do it in a broader method. Sometimes we can get overdone in process and we don't get the results, and that might be the case when we send it out by the tax bill thinking, okay, everybody got it. Well, we only sent one out on a tax bill, and there could be 6 people at the house that are using the ferry, so it was limited right off the hop. Whereas doing individual surveys and that in a tight time frame, and that we may get a lot more answers and a lot better direction from our residents. And this one being solely towards the Wolfounder resident group, and that's the group that should be surveyed. There shouldn't be surveys regarding Wolfounder 4 being done on Howe Island. That makes no sense. If at some point we want to do a survey on Howe Island, great, but I really think that there's enough questions that we should do a real survey with identified type timelines, and I'm pretty sure we can get a much better result. And as I said, for a valid survey and that with 1,500 residents, with not even counting our seasonal. And the good news is when I did my survey, 85% were residents that were year round. So it wasn't skewed that way. I think that we owe it. I think we owe it to our residents to get their opinion in the best manner forward on this. So I wouldn't be in favor of bringing this in September, to change it from the September date. I don't know whether we'll have the Wolfounder 4 back by September, for all I know. I really, really don't. And I don't know if we'll have the dock in Marysville working. And that the MTO has been more than silent on anything substantive. And when they do send out a communication, it is gobbledygook in many regards. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't give dates. And I can appreciate that they don't know some dates, but I have yet to hear a date regarding the use of the Wolf Island dock. And I have yet to see anybody.
Are you speaking to this motion?
Speaking to this regarding, we'll have to do a vote on it, but I'll say I won't be in favor of bringing it back any earlier as it stands, but that's just, we just don't know. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Ackley, Councillor Saunders, Councillor Holton, Jablonski. Okay. So would you like to read that motion again, please?
Yes, moved by Councillor Holton, second by Councillor Jablonski, that the request received from the Better Service for Wolf Islanders regarding dual ferry service be received, and that council bring forward Deputy Mayor Saunders' motion regarding dual ferry service earlier than the September 2025 meeting as they have requested.
Okay, all those in favor?
I want to get in double negatives here. All those in favor of bringing the
No.
motions?
So clarification through you, Madam
Okay.
Mayor. If you vote in favor and the motion is carried, then we would then need to put a motion forward to take from the table the previous motion. If this motion as it reads right now is lost, then it doesn't come back until the September meeting.
Thank you.
So all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, Dale. Okay, now request from the Wolf Island Roundup. We still have time. 2025.
Moved by Councillor Halton, seconded by Councillor Ackley, the request received from Aaron and Rob White regarding the scheduled trailer times on the ferry for the Wolf Island Roundup 2025, June 25th to June 27th, 2025 be supported as requested, and that council direct staff to provide a letter of support for the Wolf Island Roundup 2025 trailer times to MTO.
Okay, discussion, Councillor Ackley,
I don't have any comment.
Deputy Mayor Saunders,
Thank you.
Councillor Alton.
No, this will be the 10th year and, they've figured out a system that works and we should support it.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski.
I'll support this fully.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. County of Frontenac resolution support proposed provincial legislation on cycling lanes.
Moved by Councillor Jablonski, second by Councillor Ackley, the request for resolution support received from the County of Frontenac concerning provincial legislation on cycling lanes be endorsed or received and filed.
Discussion, Councillor Ackley.
We definitely don't have room for cycle lanes on Owl Island or money.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Saunders,
No comment.
Councillor Halton,
No problem.
Councillor Jablonski.
No comment.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. County of Frontenac resolution support for the establishment of Ontario Rural Road Safety Program.
Moved by Councillor Halton, second by Councillor Ackley, that the request for resolution support received from the County of Frontenac for the establishment of an Ontario Rural Road Safety Program be endorsed or received and filed.
Councillor Ackley, any questions?
I don't have any comment.
Deputy Mayor Saunders,
No comment.
Councillor Halton,
No comment.
Councillor Jablonski,
No comment.
all those in favor? Carried. Now, redistribution of land transfer tax and GST.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, second by Councillor Jablonski, that the request for resolution support received from Richmond Hill regarding the redistribution of provincial land transfer tax and GST to municipalities for sustainable infrastructure funding be endorsed or received and filed.
Okay, Councillor Ackley,
I think we should get a piece of the pie.
okay, Deputy Mayor Saunders,
I support that.
Councillor Halton.
I support that.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski,
I
and I
support
do
that
too.
too.
All those in favor? Carried. Now, we got public question period. We have 10 minutes before we have to go for an extension. Is there anybody in the public? Do I see any hands? Step forward, state your name, your residence, and your question, please.
Do you need my address?
Yep, for this clerk.
Am I on video now?
Yeah,
Okay. Hi, my name is Martin Mostert, 689 Ninth Line Road, Wolf Island. I represent a group called Better Service for Wolf Islanders. It's an unincorporated grassroots association committed to ensuring reliable, safe, and efficient connections between Wolf Island's Kingston mainland and the island, including Simcoe Island. We are focused on ensuring accountability and transparency of
Just-
public transportation.
Are you doing a presentation or are
No.
you doing a question?
And I'm gonna follow up with my question because it's
Okay,
related to Lisa's just request
so
that
we
was
just
just
dealt with.
voted down.
Yep.
So, yeah, I represent the same group. Unfortunately, Lisa was not able to be there here today. And we weren't sure whether we could speak on her behalf, although I learned something from Terry Lynn Brennan. Maybe we could do that next time. I'm very upset by the lack of urgency that this council does not understand by Lisa's letter. Did you read Lisa's letter? Like, what happened now is, first of all, we had an accident with the 4. We're in the 3, using Wolf Island 3 right now on an hourly schedule, which knock on wood right now, it's operating well. But it's already backing up on the Kingston side in the afternoons. It's soon, which is the very months that you suggested, we're gonna be in a very
Okay,
backed up time, in both on the Kingston side parking lots in the afternoon and on the Dawson side.
so your question to
Yeah,
council though
and
is?
my question to our whole council right now, and this is reflecting on some of our members' letters way back in January when this was not an urgent matter. The mayor and the deputy mayor commit to working together to strategically address the concerns of residents of Wolf and how, this is as phrased by one of the letters, and Howe Islands with MTO, and jointly address and share our ferry concerns with the MTO, and specifically the dual ferry that MTO has in their plans right now and is needed this summer. Thank you.
Okay, is that addressed to any specific councillor?
No.
Okay, deputy mayor first?
Yeah, so let me comment. First of all, I can assure you that everybody, staff, council, the mayor, everybody has been expressing their concern to MTO about the status. I don't think anybody should think, I don't think anybody should think otherwise. That the issue appears, I think there's 2 issues. One is, as the mayor has said, MTO tends to have a deaf ear. We try to address that by putting all of our communication as much as possible through the CEO, so it's staff to staff as opposed to elected official to elected official. That has helped perhaps, but the additional information is not coming forward. The other piece that I see of this is to ask for dual ferry service without trying to understand what's involved. Like, how does it work? Where do you get staffing? What about maintenance? What about dockage? Like, all those very practical aspects, I think I don't think we just go push a button and run this second ferry back and forth. So that was the purpose of this motion that.
That's right, and you just declined to consider it.
Yes, on the basis that I'm predicting that MTO will come back and go, well, we can look at that, but we have to understand what the force is capable of before we can commit to a 2 ferry service. And I think that's the box we're in. So let me be clear, we're all worried about the service. I don't think anybody is happy with it. First aid, and nobody's happy with it. Our dilemma is getting messages back from MTO. So that's, and the mayor talks to them, the CEO talks to them, and everything else, but the message has been delivered and there's nothing coming back.
Okay. And my answer to this is that I've worked consistently based on the 2011 study that identified clearly we need dual ferries. And that will be my consistent message at this point in time. And I've just completed a thumbnail survey where 83% of the population on Wolf Island agreed. So that's pretty clear majority in that for me. And as to the MTO running dual ferries, that was their own study. That's what they were planning for. That's what they made their decisions on. Even the size of the dock in Kingston as well as Wolf Island was based on dual ferries. That is the answer that also works towards our ambulance and emergency services. And it is what we should be advocating for, but that is my position based on their own study. And there has been no position by this council that has been agreed upon. And if at some point in time, we could ever get to that point, I've asked for a survey to be done regarding ferry specifically. I've asked for a strategic plan. Any of this stuff would make it solid, but at this point in time, MTO, their plan from the get-go was to have dual ferries. Their plan seemed to have gotten off the rails around COVID time. That said, it doesn't get them away from the clear need that they're not meeting our capacity, barely meeting it in the winter time. Everybody seemed a lot less stressed with the 1 hour ferry service of the Wolf Islanders 3 during the winter time, but we all know all the wheels come off of it as soon as the cottagers and transients come through, and cottagers for the Big Sandy Bay crowd. So to me, it's crystal clear, and I can't get this council to agree on that. So with that, I hold the feet of the MTO to the fire with their own report. Okay, Councillor Jablonski, you have something?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'm really getting sort of worried that we're trying to base a dual ferry service on a 14-year-old survey. I said this before, if they were going to do something, MTO would have done it already. There'd be a service to be fair being built in the meantime. 14 years, can we get by an old survey? Governments change their mind. End of story. You can put the fire team as much as you want. We haven't changed anything. I've been here since 2009. Population hasn't changed. We still have the same ferry going back and forth, 1 hour schedules. What has changed to require us to have 2 ferries now? What's changed? Nothing. So I'm just saying, I appreciate you guys' stance. I would love to have 2 ferries too. I'd like to have a bridge. But we have to be, we have to figure out what is possible. What can we reach out and take care of? Let's get the 4 running, let's get it back, see how it does. Go from there.
Okay, any further discussion or answer?
I'm the same. If we don't finish the infrastructure first, we can't ask for something better. At this point, we're stuck. It's not that we're not agreeing, we're disagreeing to agree here. Cause we can't make a solid decision on, we can ask for the moon, but we're never gonna get there. I said, at the end of the day, we need the infrastructure done so we can move forward. Like, we can't move forward right now on a 2 ferry. We can't even get our ferry fixed. And these guys are asking for a second one. Ours it's junk. It's junk, and I don't mind saying it.
Yeah, we're at the time frame of 12:30. Thank you very much, Martin, for your question. And ask now for an extension with council.
So I need a mover and seconder to extend beyond 12:30, but not beyond 1:30 PM. Not beyond 1 PM?
Half an hour.
Okay. We got a mover and a seconder, Councillor Ackley and Councillor Holton. Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Saunders.
At 1 o'clock, right?
1 PM.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should be done in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I've got to be
Yeah.
gone. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried, okay. Any hands up for further of this public question period? I see none. Good. Okay, statement by members. Councillor Ackley.
I'd just like to say that Brian Patterson's come to the how do I say that?
Philomena's.
Philomena Hall at 6:30 on Wednesday night. If people want to show up to ask questions and
That's
see
this Wednesday.
this Wednesday and see where we stand with the Conservative Party. Let's do it. I want to see people.
Okay. And Deputy Mayor Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, you may have noticed that the mayor now has a gavel that was generously donated by a Howe Island resident, Peter Fleming. It's made, handcrafted from Howe Island wood, and he wanted to be here personally and present it, but he has other commitments. So we now have our gavel. The Howe Island Ratepayers Association, HIRA, has 2 events coming up they wanted us to mention. One is Pitch In, which is scheduled for Saturday, April the 26th. If you have any questions, get a hold of John Rich, or you can even probably get to them through their website. And the other is they have organized a speakers event. This is something that's been talked about a lot. On Wednesday, April the 23rd, they are having a guest speaker. I'll have trouble with her name, Elizabeth Bay Folkson, who's a Master Garden and Biodiversity Advocate, speaking on invasive species on Willow Island. So we all are aware of those. That is open to everybody at 7 o'clock at the Philomena Parish Hall. And a big shout out to Debbie Miller with Frontenac County Economic Development. She organized a tour of how island dealing, and that with 4, I believe, businesses on the island, providing them support and communication and ideas. So I want to thank them for doing that. That's it.
Okay, it sounds like we're putting statements and announcements together on that at this point in time. Councillor Holton?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Jablonski?
Just a mention of a member who passed away in our island just recently, Ken White. Great guy, been around 80 some odd years old, great, leaves behind Peggy and his daughters. Yeah, gonna be missed. He was one of my wind turbine guys too previously, so he will be missed.
Okay, and I can report back that the CAO and myself attended a virtual event on March the 19th. Assume you were on the other side of that.
Yes, ma'am, I was.
There we go. So it was the CEO mayor relationship. It was very nice. Also, we have a nomination of exceptional local senior. Application can be made by April the 30th. And on the tail end of that, I would suggest that a posthumous nomination of Ken White might be appropriate. And that to be submitted on our behalf, but that would be my 2 cents on it. That would go to the Ontario Honors and Awards for seniors, and he certainly qualified for that, and he was a significant citizen all the way along throughout his life. There's also going to be a fireman's golf dinner and dance going to be held on July 19th over on Wolf Island. Steak is involved, golf is involved, and music, so it should be a good time for all. And just a footnote, I'm now also the chair of the Economic Development Committee at the County of Frontenac. And that's about it. Then we have notice of motions. Any notice of motion? Being none. Announcements, is there any different announcements than what we've already made?
Can I just make a
Chief
quick one?
Quinn.
Howe Island Residents, April 24th, 5th, and 6th. We've arranged for, as a result of the ice storm, if you wish to bring brush to this location for chipping, please get a hold of me, and we'll get you an appointment and look after you.
Madam Mayor, if I may, the Public Works Foreman for Wolf Island and myself are working on something similar for the Wolf Island residents, so stay tuned. We will have it published as to how we're going to proceed for the Wolf Island residents.
Okay, I had understood from Keith that there was a chipper that was gonna be there this Friday. And that for downtown, down in Marysville where big branches had come down.
I don't think it's this Friday, because this Friday is Good Friday, so none of us
Friday.
are working.
Okay, probably was the Friday before. He was warning me because it was coming.
Oh, so with you, what you were talking about, sorry, Madam Mayor, there's a piece of property, and forgive me because I don't know what the address is off the top of my head. The McLaren's was supposed to be there today to take those trees down and clean up that brush, so.
Okay,
yes.
so today.
Yeah.
All right. And do we have a wood chipper that's usually at where we handle the brush down at the Public Works anyways?
We do have Public Works does have a wood chipper,
Mhm.
that is portable. From my understanding from discussions with Mr. Greenwood, that residents normally will bring a half-ton truckload into the wayside. That being said, there's a $10 permit for that, so that's what we are working out.
Working to get rid of that.
Madam Mayor,
Okay. Chief Hawk.
I do have a couple of announcements. On May 5th, the General Hotel is putting on a state dinner and dance. There's a band coming. It's where you're going to purchase an AED, so it's a fundraiser for that. And thanks to Jesse, we finally got our tanker delivered last week.
Oh, my God.
With all his hard work and getting things done, it was kind of a bit of a,
How did the treasurer get all this? Did he drive it?
No, there's just some delay in
it was
delivery
just
and.
money delay, or not money delays, it was a nightmare. Let's just put it that way.
The
Finance.
truck's in
We
the
have it now.
garage, so.
Possession's 9/10 of the law now, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, now, we'll get to the bylaws.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there was one item left, not discussed during the closed session that we would have to go back into closed.
Do it next time.
No, we have time. We have till 1.
So I would just need a mover and seconder to move into closed session to discuss that final matter, before we address the bylaws.
Okay, we have a mover for that. Counselor Ackley, seconded. Counselor Jablonski. Okay.
Please and thank you.
Okay, now we're at bylaw. We're resuming at 12:44. We're bylaw 011-2025, declare surplus lands and sell a portion of Center Street.
Through you, Madam Mayor, so the motion that I have, sorry, forgive me, I just got to get back to where it was.
Take your time.
So I would be looking for 3 readings and final passage for all 3 bylaws. The first being that portion of Center Street, Part 2, to stock up, close, and sell. The second one is the one that we discussed at the last meeting with regards to declaring the former fire hall vacant lot as surplus to sell that. And then just the confirmation of the proceedings. Okay, so I'll put the motion on the table, moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Holton, that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw 0111-25. I'm sorry, 011-25, 012-2025, and 013-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council. Excuse me.
Okay, any questions, Councillor Ackley?
No questions.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Deputy Mayor Saunders, Councillor Holton,
No question.
okay, Councillor Jablonski.
No questions.
I'm just going back to check that was not indicated first, second, and third reading on what we just talked about, the stop close.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Carried.
And finally, moved by Councillor Ackley, second by Councillor Holton, that the regular meeting of council held on April the 14th, 2025, adjourn at 12:46 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.